Greetings, greetings, crafty monkeys. I know, do not check your watches. I am, I believe, 2 minutes early. What is happening? Must be the new moon. I think there was a new moon on Tuesday. Anyway, how are you doing this Friday night? Oh, do you know what? I've just realised though, I haven't turned all my notifications off on my phone or do not disturb, so hopefully no one will ring me. But anyway, how are you? How are you? Turned into the Queen. How are you? I'm Rachel, and it's my regular Friday Night Live, and in a matter of moments I'm going to be joined by the wonderful, fabulous, gorgeous, according to the ladies in his class, he is better looking than anybody in Bridgerton. That's what they said about him. That's what they said about him. It's Nicholas Ball, and he's going to be chatting to us in a matter of moments, and we're going to be talking about his career, his quilting history, what inspires him. I might even ask him his favourite food, shall I? If you've got any questions that you'd like to ask Mr. Nicholas Ball, please put them in the chat, in the comments there, and I'll ask him. I'll ask him for you. Or he'll see the comments himself, and then he will answer those questions. He's very good at answering questions, is our Nicholas. In fact, he's very good at so many things, especially teaching. We're also going to be talking about his classes. However, I will say, if you are interested in any Nicholas Ball classes, you might actually want to jump on the website whilst you are looking at this Instagram Live, or certainly immediately after, because there are so few tickets left now for his classes that are coming up. And the classes that we have listed on our website are the last classes from Nicholas Ball. Don't panic. Until September. You thought I was going to say forever then, didn't you? Until September, and then he'll be back. But if you want to get your fix of Nicholas before the summer months, you need to jump on his last few courses that we have on our website. So anyway, how are you all? Let's have a look through my filthy glasses this evening. Who's watching? Lots of you watching, which is lovely, lovely, lovely. Oh, Trudy Wood has joined. Hello, Trudy. No Nicholas as yet, but I'm sure Nicholas will arrive at about 10 past because he knows that I'm always late. Yes, so do get your questions in. What can I tell you? I have just been editing Okay, so our Take 3 club, the last month of content is this month, but then it's moving into the VIP club. And I was thinking that when I've been talking about the Take 3 club ending, some people might just think, well, obviously it wasn't very successful. It was. But the reason it was called Take 3 is because it was all based on 3 sewing experts for the techniques and project videos, which are in a private area on our website, and you pay monthly for it. And it's gone incredibly well, and a lot of people are saying, when's the next one coming? It's running straight on, so the 1st of June is when the new content will be launched, but it will be called VIP because it's not about 3 people anymore. Let me just tell you in essence what it is. It's 1 tutor per month who gives you hours of footage and takes you on a really enriched, deep dive creative process. And then you have a webinar with that tutor later on in the month, so you can ask your questions about any of the homework and things that have been set for you. Any patterns or anything, because every month is different, so any patterns or anything that is included is obviously included in the price, and you can download them. Talking about downloading, you can also download the video content, of course, as well, all within the price. So it is yours to keep forever. So it's a lovely, lovely month of content for yours forever. The price is going to be $14.99 a month if you buy the annual membership, which will only be available in the month of June. To buy, you will get 2 months for free. So if you do want to get 2 months for free, jump on, get the annual membership, and you can do that in the whole month of June. But then in July, it will just become on a monthly basis. $14.99, different tutor every month. Let me just tell you about some of the things that we've got going on. So we've tried to really give you a wide variety of projects, because the last year of Take 3 was really about learning so many basics, but also, you know, various blocks and techniques, and we wanted to build upon that. But of course, if you've missed Take 3, it doesn't matter. You don't need to know all of what happened in Take 3 at all. Every project, every month is going to stand by itself. But I've just been editing Janet Clare's footage, and it's absolutely wonderful. That's all I'll say. Her project is in 2 months. So her first month she's launching with us in June, and then she's got her second part of her filming about 3 or 4 months later. And all this will be listed on the website in the next week or so, in the VIP area. But she is really going to take you through the creative process. So today I've been editing her videos, and she's been talking about how she gets in the mood, how she finds inspiration, how she brings that inspiration together, how the creative process starts to work from that inspiration, what that creative process is. So then she talks about gathering pictures and going on Pinterest and making sketchbooks and sort of mood boards, and then how you put all of that together. She will then move that into a fantastic I'm not going to say it's a quilt because it's just lots of little fabric pieces that are put together. So it's how you transfer that inspiration into fabric. That's the second part of her course. And it's so detailed and it's so fabulous. And I've just been editing the footage today. So that's the first month kicking us off in July. No, June, 1st of June, which is going to be amazing. But then we have got other things like, for example, Gary Mills is doing a mixed media kind of thing for us, and he's doing lots of stitching and painting on fabric and creating a kind of seascape. And then we've got Jenny in America. She's going to be doing a wonderful quilt for us and showing you how to put all of the colours together in blocks and how they work. We have got Sarah Payne is doing some free motion for us. We have got Gary will come back and make a Japanese inspired jacket, so a bit of dressmaking in there as well. Lucy Brennan is going to be doing some mixed media. So the whole year, if you did go for the annual membership, every month you're going to be delivered a package which is going to give you really enriched learning, a lot of detail, take you on a creative process. It may be something you have never done before. Ingrid is doing some FPP. It may be something you might not try again, but you will have tried it and given it a go. And that's the idea. And you will certainly learn something from every single film. And you get the webinar. And all that for $14.99 a month, which is less than a class. And a class lasts for 3 hours and it's gone. And, you know, this you can download. So the classes are amazing, but it's a different kind of thing. But what I'm saying is the value is incredible. So that is coming up. Has Nicholas joined you? Let's just see if he has come along and asked to join in. There he is. Yes, he is. I shall review the question. So there you go. That is what's happening for our VIP club, and that launches on the 1st of June. As I say, details will be on the website in the next week or so. Hello, Mr. Nicholas.
Hello, it's cut me off my head. Let me reposition myself.
There you are.
There we go.
There you are. Lovely, lovely, Nicholas. How are you this evening?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, actually. I just was explaining, Nicholas, about our VIP club, and I've just been editing Janet Clare's footage, and it's something that is so unusual and so different to the classes. And what she's doing is talking about the creative process and how she gets in the mood and where she gets her inspiration from and how she puts it together and how you create a mood board and sketchbooks, and then how that transfers into fabric. It's just been fun. I've been sat there. It's been a joy. I've been watching it for like, you know, the last hour and a half and just loving it. Absolutely loving it. So I'm in a very zen mood this evening, Nicholas.
Oh, it's the new club sounds really interesting, doesn't it? So it's going to kind of give people a bit more than what they see in a class, isn't it? So when you go to your class, you have that particular technique or that particular project, but this is really about sort of behind the scenes of the whole process, isn't it? So people are really going to be enriched by the content, I think, provided from the new club. It sounds very exciting.
Absolutely. And I know that you were busy because we came to you a bit sort of late in the day and you've got some things on, but I'm hoping because the club will just now continue, because Take 3 had to end because it was based on 3 tutors. This is not 3 tutors. This is a tutor every month. So the VIP club, we're just envisaging that it will just carry on now. It'll be like a yearly membership, but it will just continue. So I'm hoping, Nicholas, that in the next year, starting in June 22, you will do a month for us of something as well.
I'll pen in some time for you.
We'll get it in the diary. We'll give you plenty of warning this time.
Yes.
But yeah, so lovely, Nicholas, you're sitting with that fantastic triangle quilt behind you. It was very funny this week, wasn't it, Nicholas? I did send you a message and I may have put a naughty word in there because I was editing Nicholas's video, and we'll talk about his classes in a little bit. But I was editing your video and you'd sent me a photograph close up of your triangle quilt. And because I had this picture in front of me, I've seen this so many times, I had this picture in front of me, and you know, it was like when you go to a gallery and a picture stops you and then you just kind of looking at it and you lose yourself in it. And I just messaged you, didn't I? I said, I know this is a random message because I've been working with you for like, it feels like 100 years and I've seen triangles now so many times, but your work is absolutely astounding. It's that triangle quilt, Nicholas, it just blew my mind.
That's very kind of you to say. Yeah, no, that was well timed actually, because it was in the day job, people complaining about things and all that, and then to have a message like that, it's like, oh, it makes it so well. And it's good because that particular triangle quilt that you're referring to is one of the biggest, not only triangle quilts, but quilts in general that I've ever made. So the amount of work that went into creating that, and you've seen the triangle workshop, some triangles end up being like this.
Yeah.
So to create enough of those to make an 80 odd inch quilt is quite a labor of love. So to have recognition for it and to hear nice comments like that is wonderful. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it really. I mean, Jake, obviously doing all the website design, he's always loved what you do. But I just shouted down the corridor, and then I put it into your message. But I just said, this is just astounding when you actually get, because when I do your films, obviously I'm concentrating on your face, your beautiful face, Nicholas, as those
Not
ladies said in the
not this
class.
afternoon, not this evening. Oh, look at me. Cool.
But that when I looked at the picture, I was like, wow, that really is astonishing. Anyway, let's talk about you, Nicholas, because there may be some people. I know that when you first came to Crafty Monkeys, obviously you brought a terrific audience with you, but there were some of our ladies who had never heard of improv quilting, or certainly didn't think they could do it. Didn't know you, and came on your classes and now are firm fans. So just for the people who don't really know much about Nicholas, who is Nicholas Ball?
Who is this crazy triangle man?
He. I think what was really interesting, Nicholas, is when one of our ladies said, bless her, in the chat box in the class, Nicholas, did you invent improv quilting? And I thought that was just fantastic.
That was very sweet. And
It's very
as
sweet.
much as I'd love to claim that accolade, I did not
No.
invent improv quilting. So improv quilting is, it's a lifestyle. It's a creative choice. It's been around for a long, long time, way before me, and way before many of the ladies who come to our classes. It's been a long time that it's been in the world of quilting, and like a lot of people, when I started quilting, I had never heard of it. So when you start something, you kind of look for experts in that field, don't you? Or tuition or something like that. So I went to the library and I got traditional quilting books that tell you, the accuracy of your seams and, press, don't iron, and the basics of rotary cutting and all of that sort of stuff. And I just thought, well, this is what quilting is. And all of the quilts that I'd seen up until that point were very traditional. And also the influences that I saw on TV, those American programs that I used to watch and films, all of the quilts that you generally see on the set are very traditional. So I just thought that's what it was. And that's, I cut my teeth on that and learned all of that. And it was only by doing that more and more that I realized, whilst I liked the actual process of making, the things that I was ending up with were a bit like, quickly move on to the next, put it on a pile and make the next quilt. And that's when I kind of discovered improv and started to experiment with liberated piecing, so not using rulers and using your scissors more than your rotary cutter, and not worrying if your points don't match. And it's just about being freer, I guess. For some, it's daunting because, of course, without the pattern, without the specific set of instructions, you don't have that hand holding. So there's no one telling you, well, at this stage, you're going to take the two squares that you've just sewn and put them together. With improv, it's like, right, here's the deep end, jump in, you're on your own, so sink or swim pretty much. And I just love that. That's the way my brain works. That's the way I get excited about quilting, is being in that creative space where I can make spontaneous choices. I can think, well, I'm going to cut a little bit off this, or I put a little strip here, or I'll make this bigger, I'll make this smaller. And it's just about that. If I could sum it up, it's just about being freer and having the courage, I guess, to be more liberated in your approach. And from that, lots can come. So it's not about saying, I'm always going to be an improv quilter. You may have a spark, you may have an idea that you can tailor towards that style of piecing, but then you can go back to your traditional. You may be working on a traditional quilt that is doing your head in, it might be very precise, lots of cutting, and you just want to let loose. So that's what improv is there for. It just allows you to be a little bit free, a little bit more organic, I guess. And people think that it's kind of, sometimes if they don't have an understanding of it, they think it's slapdash and, you know, not accurate in the fact that the quilt is just going to fall apart. But there is, you know, there is a level of sewing there that you know, determines that the quilt will stay together. We still have to worry about things like that, and it has to be made well, but it can be made freer at the same time. So that's improv in a nutshell, really, for anybody that it doesn't understand it. And that's my take on it.
Yeah, and I think if anybody was to, you know, have a look at your triangle quilt, for example, in great detail, you know, you couldn't. I think it's very much like when people look at modern art, and sometimes they can look at modern art and go, well, I could do that. You know, I could just chuck a load of paint onto a canvas, but actually there is an art to it, because it is about choosing which paints you throw and how you throw them and which bits, and when do you stop and when do you carry on. And I think it's the same with yours. If anybody looks at Improv who is a traditional quilter and goes, that's not proper quilting, you know, you just can't look at it that way, because as you say, with the work in that quilt, that's what got me when I was looking at that detail, was just amazing. And how you put the colors together, and as you say, although there isn't a precision, there is a precision. You know, it's not just chucked. It's not a load of triangles off the floor and just thrown together. So yeah, it is amazing. I have a question for you, actually, Nicholas, because obviously you're very much into your, you know, your improv, which for me, I like it because it's very, I really like color and bold color and modern shapes. And if I buy any art for the house, that sounds very grand, but there's a guy who's down the road who's an amazing artist, and it undercharges hugely for his paintings. So I'll occasionally buy a big painting from him. It's always very modern art. I don't think I would ever, you know, kind of pick a classic traditional scene, you know, of a waterfall that looks like a waterfall. I'd go for something that was very, oh, is that a waterfall in there? That kind of thing. So it's very modern art. What are you like? Are you very much into modern art, or, you know, if we came to your house, would we find some really traditional classic paintings?
So I kind of fall somewhere in the middle, I guess. So I'm not a very lover of traditional art. So, you know, landscapes and classic portraiture, that sort of thing. I kind of like it when there's a naive quality to it. So a lot of my favorite paintings kind of, or favorite artists, more to be more general, the subject matter, you can tell what it is, you know what it is, but there's not that precision there. There's not that, perhaps it's not anatomically correct slightly, or there's a little bit of scale difference or something like that. The proportions are not quite right. So people like Rousseau, who does those wonderful jungle scenes, I really admire him, and Picasso as well for his cubism stuff. But then I wouldn't say that I'm a huge fan of extreme modern art, so pushing things very to the complete other end of the spectrum, whereby you're looking at a painting and then it's called, you know, Man with Horse, and it's just like a square box with a dot in it or something like that. You know,
Yeah, I know
my
what you
brain
mean.
is a bit like, right, okay. So something in the
Yeah,
middle, I guess, is what I
yeah,
like. But again, whether it's traditional or extremely modern, color plays a lot for me as well. So I guess that's why I like Picasso, for his fantastic use of color. Rousseau's jungles, you know, those jungle scenes are just so vivid, and you feel like you could almost be in that jungle. They're so lush. Just anyone who has a bold and you know, really vibrant use of color, I'm drawn to. But I guess in the same way, because, you know, I started in photography, so that was my background. And even when I was in university, you know, there were people who were wanting to do landscape portraiture, landscape photography and classic portraiture. So it was all very, you know, rule of thirds and all very, you know, precise. And I was there with my overexposure and me blurring of me of the shot, and, you know, over processing the negatives and cross processing the negatives, and, you know, using lots of contrast. So I've always been somebody that likes to kind of work just on the outside of that box and not kind of toe that traditional line. And that goes for everything. I mean, that goes for my quilting, that goes for my appreciation of art, my appreciation of books. You know, I'm kind of into some obscure literature, and when I started in photography as well. So right across the whole spectrum of my life, I've always been somewhat on the outside of the traditional box, if you like.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And I think it's interesting how you can change as well. I mean, like talking about Picasso, you know, I went to his museum, and I was saying this a couple of weeks ago that, you know, I didn't realize with Picasso, I thought he always was on the modern side of things, you know, the eye on the wrong side of the face with the nose over here. which I absolutely love. But I always thought that was his style. But actually, his earlier days, when you look at his
Yeah.
paintings, he's like the masters. I mean, you know, he's incredibly prolific and
Yeah.
talented in what he could do. So it is incredible, I think, when an artist swings so far to the other way. How do you find your inspiration? Because I was talking about Janet there, and she was saying in the VIP club, her journey, she talks about how, you know, she said we've all been stuck in our gardens for the last year, so she's found a lot of stuff now in the garden, but she looks at magazines and books, and she quite likes reading a book and taking quotes, and she feels that the quotes then inform her creative process. Where do you get your inspiration from? And I know we know the leak story. If anybody wants to know the leak story, they can look at a video on our website. But where, on a sort of, you know, when you're thinking, okay, what's my next quilt going to be, where does it come from?
So it kind of falls into two camps, I guess. So I may decide that I just want to make a triangle quilt, and there won't be any specific source of inspiration. There won't be anything deep or meaningful about it. I just want to explore that shape. So I'll pick colors that I like and put them together just as a standalone triangle quilt. And then there are other times where I might be inspired by, like this quilt, for example, the sort of souks and stuff of Marrakech, so the markets of Morocco and all of that sort of stuff, the colours, and the triangle shape ties into the sort of the tents that you might see nomadic dwellers using and things like that. So sometimes there is a little bit of inspiration, and that inspiration can really come from anywhere. So we know of my love of nature, so I take a lot of inspiration from the natural world, flora, fauna, all of that sort of stuff. But also architecture as well, which is unusual for me because that generally tends to be the straighter lines, the more graphic looking quilts that I make. I've taken inspiration from Japanese pottery repair. I've taken inspiration from social activism. So more recently, sort of the Black Lives Matter movement and things that people get really passionate about. Just as a way as to give a voice, I guess, to these sorts of things. And the best way I know how to do that is through my quilts. So
Yeah.
I've been inspired recently by things like Black Lives Matter and sort of social activism and things. So it's a really wide spectrum of inspiration. There's not one source that sort of comes to me all the time. It can just depend. And then, as I said, other times there is no source of inspiration. It's just about, I want to make a quilt. I like these colors together. I really enjoy the process of piecing triangles. So let's just see where those triangles take me. And that will just be a triangle quilt. You know, there won't be any story or history to it or anything like that. So very, very wide ranging sources of inspiration that I find particularly inspiring.
Do you ever get blocked? You just can't, it just doesn't come to you?
I think I don't get blocked in the sense that I'm stopped from creating. I think I could always find a quilt to make and always be inspired to make a quilt, even if it's just throwing triangles together, you know, just to break that creative block. But sometimes I do get sort of halfway through a project and think, this is absolutely awful. I know, and I find it difficult to take my own advice. And you've heard me say in classes, you know, if things aren't working, leave it on your design board, step away, try something else, come back. But I'm my own worst enemy for that. Because I'm quite impatient as well, I feel like, well, I'm in this now, so I've got to get to the end of it and I've got to finish it. And that can sometimes be to the detriment of the quilt. So I do need to learn to take a step back sometimes, but I don't really get stuck in the sense that I can't create. It's more that I get stuck in a particular project. And not so much stuck. I kind of know how to finish it. I know like this needs to be done to get to the end point. But it's not like I don't want to do it because I feel like I've fallen out of love with a quilt, if that makes sense. And that's rare. That doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. And you know, it's people shouldn't be ashamed or upset that that happens. It is part of the creative process. We all get either moments of stiltedness within a project or moments where we simply just can't create. And, you know, that goes across all sorts of mediums. And I would just say, you know, I need to take my own advice, but work through the process, step away, give yourself some distance. And that can really help with, you know, becoming creatively unstuck. But also I would say as well, particularly now, this is more important than ever, is because we have so much access to other people, other creators. It's very easy to then be in that place where things aren't going right, go on social media and go, well, that's amazing. Why am I even bothering? So I would always say, never compare yourself to anybody else out there. You just do you. And sometimes doing you comes easily, and other times it comes at a slower pace, but it will come.
Yeah, and it's really important to be yourself. I mean, I know it's a slight diversion, but when I used to run a company that taught presenting techniques, because I've been doing it for 100 years. And I used to always say, I think someone told me this, but you must be yourself. As a presenter, you have to be yourself, because if you start becoming a persona, you will fall down, because something will go wrong in a broadcast or something will happen, and then the real you will come out, and then the audience will be like, who's that? And so it's really important that you are yourself, but also just to be in your totally natural state. You have to be yourself, because if you are putting on a persona, the humor will be off, the talking will be off, and you'll just be not authentic. So I do agree. I think you have to just stick by yourself. And as you say, social media, wonderful, also can be awful, because you can
And
compare
also,
yourself.
if you're putting up a front or a persona, it's exhausting.
Exactly.
And as you said, eventually that mask is going to slip, and then people are going to be like, well, who's this? So to put on that front of, hello, this, it's all very exhausting. So
Yeah.
why bother? Just be yourself from the off, do you, and people can like it or lump it, really, can't they?
Yeah. If they don't like you, then off they toddle.
Yeah,
And my husband's got a great phrase. He always says, trot on, trot on. I've had things in the past where I've gone, and I can't believe you said this, and it's just gone, and you just go, okay, trot on. It's fine.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, you have to just be yourself, and you can't change other people's opinions, and you can't help other people, and you can't save them. They are they, and they will react to you how they are going to react, but it's not about you, that's about them. And it's the same with us. We react to people because it's about us and our feelings. So you have to just be that person. But talking about people and creators, then, I mean, who inspires you? If we had a dinner party, Nicholas, if you lived round the corner from me, you would have been you would have been allowed to be in my house because of the corona. But if the corona wasn't here, I'd have had you over for a nice bottle of wine. But if you were going to have a dinner party, and you're going to have, I know I should have asked you this question before, you're going to have 3 guests at the dinner party. This can be non-creative or creative. So let's just delve into the mind of Nicholas Ball. Who would your 3 guests be? And they can be a person who is going to come back from the land of the non-living. So who would your 3 party guests be?
Oh, well, you are putting me on the spot here now, Rachel.
I know.
But I try not to keep people waiting as I agonize over this decision. But I guess, first of all, would have to be...
Me.
Yeah, well, you're the host, so anyway.
I'm putting on the party, so it's you and 3 others.
Yeah, so Salvador Dali.
Yes.
Realist artist. I would just love to just pick his brains, just choose one of his many, many, in my opinion, masterpieces, have it there and go, just wax lyrically about this for 20 minutes to me. I would just, I would listen, and it would lull me into such a sense of wonder. It would be fantastic. So Salvador Dali, and then... this is really hard. Marie Antoinette, probably.
That's interesting.
Because I feel like she got a bit of a raw deal.
Yeah.
I've read several biographies on Marie Antoinette, and with any historical figure, they become almost caricatures of what they're best known for. For her, it's always going to be the cake, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I very much that was said. So I would just like to kind of ask her, it must have been scary for her to be caught up in that revolution, and whatever part she played in inciting that, is neither here nor there. But just as a mother with children, being, hounded by the citizens of Paris, it must have been scary. So I just like to get her take on the French Revolution and to see, what did you think of that? So she would be number 2, and then number 3. Very hard, Rachel.
Just talking about the French Revolution then, Nicholas, I could see you in the French Revolution outfit. I could see you in the tight breeches with the boots and the I'm just thinking of Les Mis. I could see you in a Les Mis outfit, marching down the street. Da, 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 improv quilting. Yes.
I don't have the energy for revolution. I'd rather be in the Versailles ballroom with all the cake, just the powdered wig and everything. And then who would be my number 3? So probably It would probably be a writer, maybe George Orwell
Ooh.
or Terry Pratchett. Both of those are some of my favourite authors, and I've read lots of their works. I think Terry Pratchett, again, kind of like the Dali thing, like, how does your brain work? How do you come up with these amazing concepts and things? And then George Orwell, because I love Down and Out in Paris and London. So I would love to chat to him. Having lived in Paris myself, I'd love to kind of swap stories with him and just see how Paris was at that time. So yeah, Salvador Dali, Marie Antoinette, George Orwell. Yeah, let's go George Orwell. George Orwell. Yeah, those three.
You see, that's fascinating. That shows the inner workings of your mind. I think I probably have George Clooney, Johnny Depp, and some other young handsome man. So no, I'm joking. I don't know who I would have at my party, but those are really interesting. I would definitely have an artist. Definitely. Yeah, like you say, Salvador Dali. That would be fascinating, wouldn't it, to go inside his head? Yeah, really interesting choices. So how long did you live in Paris, and when did you live in Paris?
So we moved there after we both graduated from university. So we graduated in 2006. And of course, as you know, I did photography. So I had all the grand ideas that I was going to be the next amazing, fashion photographer. And I was going to shoot the cover of Vogue and Dazed and Confused and all of these, wallpaper, all of these amazing magazines. So Barry, my partner, got a job teaching English for the British Council, and you had to decide whether you wanted to go to Spain, Italy, or France. And we both did French A level, and I've always loved France and French culture and things like that. So we plumped for France, and we were originally just supposed to be there for kind of like 6 months. And then we planned on traveling the rest of Europe, and we ended up being in Paris for 2 years. We didn't leave Paris. We went to different places on day trips and things and holidays, but our base was Paris. And it was fantastic. It was one of the best times of my life. Everything was so easy, I want to put it, even though, we were working and we had to earn a wage because we had to pay for our apartment and you had to pay for food and all of that. But it was just like we were so, I don't want to say well off because that sounds pretentious, but there wasn't any sort of worry. It was really loose, easy living. And of course, being in France, you've got good food, you've got good wine. And I just took a job in a Irish bar and worked there for the whole of the 2 years. And I mean, that was fantastic. I never thought I would like bar work, but an Irish bar in Paris, you meet so many people. And even to this day, I have Danish friends, American friends, Swedish friends, all that I've met from just working in that bar. So the experience was fantastic. And we always talked about going back. And then, of course, life happens and, we got the dog and kind of this quilting thing took off. So it probably won't happen. And we try to go back for visits when we can, of course, not recently, but no, it was just fab. It was a real experience. And I think I would encourage anybody, if you haven't, or you're probably never too late. There is things that will kind of stop you if you've had children or you've got a mortgage or that sort of thing. So if you're maybe a youngish person watching this and you haven't yet traveled and you are able to and you think, I'd like to do it, then definitely do it, because it's living in a different country and exploring a different culture and things is really enriching and rewarding. Yeah.
So do you speak fluent French then, Nicholas?
So it's very rusty now. So it was never fluent. So we did A levels, as I said, and then went to university. So if you don't practice a language, you inevitably forget a lot of the vocabulary and grammar. But then, of course, being immersed in it when you're living in France is, you kind of have no choice. So yes, I worked in an Irish bar, and the majority of people there were speaking English. But when you want to open a bank account, and you want to order food in a restaurant, the French do understand some English, but there is maybe it's a stereotype, but particularly with Parisians that kind of don't want to speak English very much, so you kind of had to try. So a lot of it came back, and I kind of got to a very competent level. I could hold my own. We managed to get an apartment and open a bank account and all of that sort of stuff. So, and now when we go back, I try and speak French just to kind of get my keep my toe in the water, as it were. But it is sad when you don't speak it and you kind of lose a lot of it. But I try to read things if I can, and maybe if we watch a French film, I'll try not to look at the subtitles, just to kind of. But it is surprising how much and I often find myself. So I don't know if I've told you, but I'm learning Japanese at the moment as well.
Yes. Yeah, which is amazing.
The last 2 years. And there are times when I'm trying to think of a word, and then I automatically think of the French word before the English, and it's all just gets very confused. So my recall of certain French is still there. And I think if I was put on the spot, it would kind of just come out. But it's not as good as it was, unfortunately.
Yeah. I can't believe that we haven't had the French conversation, because our aim is to move to France. Jake speaks fluent French, and we absolutely love France. We
Yeah.
absolutely love it, and I was like, I'm gonna go with him because he just turns into a Frenchman. It's quite interesting. I just literally the hands start coming out and the conversation.
Gesticulation and all of that.
It's just, it's fantastic. So no, I really do. I'm with you on France. Absolutely, I love Paris. I've been to Paris so many times, and absolutely love it. But it is great when I go with him because I can understand it a little. We met this fantastic guy in a. He was in his. Do you know? This is the thing. You should never, never take anybody on their appearance or make any conclusions about anybody until you get to know them. And we had stayed in a friend's house in Nice a couple of years ago. And there was this little tiny bar. We'd go for this croissant in the morning, and it was nothing, this place. It was just, as they are, just on the street, fumes going past you, but we loved it. And we'd have this croissant in the morning. And then Jake had his camera, because he's like you, very much into photography, and his big camera on the table because we were going to go for a walk. And we're looking after a dog as well. It was our friend's dog. We got the apartment for free if we looked after the dog. So we looked after the dog. We were just so cute. And so we were sat there, and this chap came over, and he was in his late 80s. And he walked up and said to Jake, "Oh, I can see the camera in French." And so Jake was like, "Yes, yes." And then we sat there, and at first I thought, it's a bit strange. Was he, because he was sort of just hanging around. And then we got into conversation, and it turned out he had been a photographer and he had traveled the world. And bear in mind, this man was in his 80s. So when he was traveling, the world was not as it is now. No. And he was talking about all the places he'd been to Cambodia, all these amazing, and then he got some pictures out of his wallet that were black and white, little tiny black and white pictures from his, when he was younger. Just absolutely incredible. And Jake was pidgin Frenching with him. I mean, I say he's fluent. This guy was and Jake was doing really well to keep up. I was just catching the odd word. But yeah, fascinating. I love it. I love the French. So Nicholas, if you could, I'm just looking at the time because Instagram cuts us off, but let's just ask you then. So we've asked about the three-party guests, but what about someone in the creative industry now who's out there doing their thing? I know that you obviously know a lot of people. I know that you've dealt with like Zach Foster, and then obviously Chris English. Absolutely loves you, and you love Chris English. But who is someone out there that you are looking at the moment, going, yeah, you are doing good stuff. You're doing good stuff at the moment.
Oh, that's hard. I don't want to hear so many, and I don't want to be like playing. Anybody who has that sense of freedom and liberation and in their quilting is always going to appeal to me, as you probably guess. So yeah, people like Chris English I absolutely love. Luke Haynes is another quilter who I really, really admire. Just for what he does with sort of the portraiture and sort of
he's amazing. He is incredible,
just fantastic. And then also there are still quilters in sort of people talk about the quilters of Gee's Bend in Alabama as being a very important point on the history of improv, and there are second, third generation quilters still working there now. So I would love to just spend a day with them around a table sewing and just picking their brains as to what inspires them and their stories and their heritage from their family members and ancestors who may have quilted. But there are so many amazing people now, and that's the thing. That was one of the positives of social media, is that it opens up the world to you, and you only need to sort of hashtag improv quilt or hashtag sustainable sewing or something like that to find somebody doing really, really amazing stuff. But I also have great admiration for people that do things that I can't. So things like these very traditional quilts where you have to cut 1,000,000 2.5-inch squares and then join them all up into tiny little things. My brain would just go, no, I'm not doing it. But hats off to those people, and I would love to kind of just sit in on some of those quilters and just watch them as they work, because my process is very it's fabric everywhere. There's the irons going, there's scissors, it's all a mess. I'm just looking around here now, it's an absolute bonsai. But I imagine that if you're kind of more of a traditional quilter, then you take it maybe a little more of a relaxed pace, I'm guessing. I don't know, maybe you're a bit more precise and kind of have to be. So just to spend time with somebody like that would be great.
I think what's nice about you actually, Nicholas, is that you are always on the lookout for learning experiences. I mean, you are one of our tutors who has emailed me and said, oh, can I do that class, please? So you wanted to do Gary's sardines, and that just ticked your boat, that or tickled your fancy that day or whatever. And then you did another class. I can't remember which class you were in.
I did Lucy's big stitch and tying.
Because, and I watched you and you were just writing.
Was absolutely fantastic, because again it ties into that idea of being slightly outside the traditional. So massive appreciation for anybody that can hand quilt a quilt in the very traditional way with the very tiny stitches. You see a lot of that in Welsh quilting. So the old Welsh flannel quilts, and Wales has a very rich history of quilting, and some of the examples are just absolutely mind-blowing. But again, my brain, I can't be there with very precise stitches. So Lucy's big stitch class, which was a bit more folksy, I guess, and it kind of played a bit more to my improv, nature, and the tying as well, and the fact that they didn't have to be perfectly aligned and you could kind of do your own thing was just amazing. And wanting to hand quilt a quilt is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but not in a very traditional way. So that when I saw that, I was like, need to be on that class. Going on that class.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was a great class, and actually that's been one of our biggest sellers in our shop. It's still available if anybody wants to buy it. You just literally go into our shop, we send you a digital download. It's an immediate download with the code for our YouTube area, and then you just go into the private YouTube channel and watch it. And it was 3 hours of non-stop talking. She is incredible, Lucy. Actually, she is absolutely brilliant.
Font of knowledge.
She is. So yeah, that was Big Stitch is there. She also did one on threads as well. That was excellent. That's been another big seller. And recently a walking foot class for Lucy as well. Once again, all three really brilliant technique-based videos, and they're all there on the web to buy. One final question before we talk about your classes then. You mentioned Wales there. So if you could go anywhere in the world to find some inspiration for your next quilt or whatever, just inspiration really, where would it be? Where would a craft location be?
Japan.
Yes.
Don't even need to think about it. So yeah, I've been learning Japanese for the last 2 years. I've always had an affinity for Japanese culture. Love anime, love manga, love Japanese cuisine, but I've never been. And for various reasons, whether financial, time, too busy, it's just never happened. So it's always been the top place that I'd want to go. So if someone, as you said, you could go anywhere now, click your fingers. I would like to go to, I'd probably start off in Tokyo, take in the vibe. I mean, you have to do Tokyo, don't you? Yeah. And go to some of the lesser known places and just absorb that culture, because it's such a rich, not only sewing, because everybody knows of sashiko and boro and all of that sort of stuff, but just all the other creative things that Japan offers. So the idea of the kanji, the Japanese calligraphy, and the repairing of pottery with gold, and all of those sort of things. So I can't think of a more interesting melting pot, I guess, of creativity than Japan. So yeah, I would be on that plane without hesitation.
Yeah. Maybe we should try and get some Japanese themed classes here at CraftyMonkies, because we did the sashiko, of course, but yeah, we should try and find some Japanese arts and crafts and try and do some lessons.
And there is
I tell you what, Nicholas, I would love to see your creations after you've been to Japan, because as you say, I mean, think about Tokyo. So I can just imagine you using the colors and shapes and things. It would be absolutely amazing. So I do hope you get there. What can you say in Japan to us right now? In Japanese rather.
I can say, well, I could tell you what I ate. I could tell you.
Okay.
What did I eat? I'm trying to think what I ate. Or what I'm going to eat. So tonight I'm going to eat pizza.
Right.
So I would say pizza o tabemasu.
Oh, okay. Excellent. You would get on so well with my daughter, because she loves manga. She loves anime. She is massively into well, she's into K-pop, of course, but she's into the whole Korean culture. She wants to go to Korea. She is trying to learn a little bit of Korean. So yeah, she's very similar. And I mean, she's also into. I mean, she's going down the dance route. She wants to be a dance choreographer, but she is going to come out with hopefully a distinction in her textiles at school. It's very much. I think she might end up going back into kind of that kind of world, because she's always been very creative like that as well. So yeah, so you two would get on like a house on fire.
Yeah.
Should we have a look what people have been saying? Because I
Yes.
think there have been questions and comments. Let's see if anybody has asked anything. I think, to be honest, though, is people have just probably really enjoyed the chat, because it's been really interesting getting inside your lovely brain. Lots of people watching. Says Payne is watching. Hello, Says Payne, darling. She's so excited with the new club. Yes, of course, Sarah is doing a lovely month in there, as we explained. Yeah, lots of regulars. I'm not going to give out the names because I'll be here all night. There's loads of you. There's loads of you. How lovely to see you.
No, you're right. People are just liking with the love heart emoji,
which is nice.
Yeah. No comments, no questions. Oh, hang on.
Hang on, Kenza. I've got Kenza.
Kenza, yeah, that's what I'm looking.
She said, I'm from Morocco, and before you mentioned the inspiration behind the quilt, I was thinking Marrakesh. Oh,
my work is done. My work is done.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. We were thinking about going to Marrakesh and Morocco, and I don't know why we didn't go. I can't remember where we went instead, but we did really look into it. We're actually trying to get this. There's a person who does kind of like off the beaten track holidays for Morocco, so we were looking at that. So I would love to go there. So welcome from Morocco. Anybody else? I think everybody's just watching. Yeah, Trudy, I thought she said me when we're talking about who would invite to a dinner party, and she was going me. I thought she said that. Also as well, M Maid says, in the words of RuPaul, what other people think of me is none of my business. Do you know something? M Maid, Kerry, our social media lady, said exactly the same thing to me a couple of days ago, because we were having a conversation, and she said exactly that. Think like RuPaul would think.
Maid, I don't know if you know, Rachel, is lovely Mel, who we've seen in a lot.
Oh, is it Mel?
Mel.
Gorgeous Mel with the glasses and the fabulous hair and the fabulous. Yes. She's such a talent.
Lovely Mel. Hello, Mel. Lovely.
Yeah. Lovely Mel. Yeah, she is. So welcome, Mel. Lovely. And truly, it's a fascinating chat. Well, it's 1:45. Before you head off, Nicholas, let's just give a quick mention to your classes. But I did just say we've had a bit of a rush on this afternoon, because, of course, our newsletter went out today. It's our weekly newsletter. We are doing a little new thing in there called Pause for Thought now. So it's not just talking about classes, but people do find it useful, because I think something we forget as well, we think that the world is on social media, Nicholas, and of course they're not. So there are people who just get the newsletter and go, oh, I'll book that class.
Yeah.
So I think you have got, obviously you're repeating your triangle classes in June, and the Friday is sold out. The 27th, which is the Sunday, and that's at 4 o'clock till 7 BST, so our time, UK time, 4 o'clock. I believe there are something like 4 tickets left now for that class on the Sunday. So we had a rush on. So 4 tickets for the triangle class. And then you have got your cabbage class coming up. And I think there's less than 10 on the Saturday and the Sunday. So let's just quickly talk about the cabbage, because there's more chance of getting on that one for people who'd like to come on that. So that it's not this weekend, it's next weekend, isn't it?
Next weekend, Saturday the 22nd, Sunday the 23rd.
Yes.
4-hour class, so 4 till 8.
Yes.
UK time, as always. And I think it's important to tell people that whilst the end product is a cabbage, it's not, it sounds weird. I mean, if you just joined us and said, why the hell would you want to go on a workshop to make a fabric cabbage? It's not about the cabbage, really. The cabbage is a brilliant way to incorporate all of those techniques into something that you can make and admire and be proud of. So the cabbage is secondary. What's the aim of the class really is to teach you 3 fundamental improv techniques, but also more about opening up your eyes to that world that we talked about. So that creative, that inspiring world of nature or whatever, looking at things and thinking, well, now that I know Nicholas's triangles, slabs and ring techniques, I can take that window frame on that church and create a piece of textile art out of it. I can look at this pomegranate and I now have the skills to translate that into fabric. And that's what I did originally with that vegetable patch quilt. So yes, we make a cabbage, but we're making a cabbage to put all of these practices into something tangible and that we can say, ta-da, I've made. So it's more about the processes that we're going to learn. We're going to be looking at triangles in different ways. We're going to be looking at creating slabs to use as usable pieces of fabric. We're going to spending a lot of time on how to fit all of that together, because of course there's no pattern. And it's called Warholian cabbages, as you know, because you don't have to be limited to the colours of cabbage in real life. And so this is another one that I have here. So we have the traditional sort of purpley cabbage here, and we have the traditional green cabbage here. But then I also threw in a sort of creamy cabbage here. So it can be any fabric choice that you want, and it's everybody's is going to be different. And that's the joy about this class, is you're all making a cabbage. But, you know, I've made 4 in this little mini quilt, and all of them are different. And people have seen the big purple one from the book, and that's different. And the original one, that's different. So it's never going to be identical. And it's just really fun. It's a brilliant way to explore your creativity. And if you've taken maybe one of my classes before, it's just going to build on that. It's going to give you the confidence to kind of go out on your own, really. So I held your hand for maybe triangles or log cabins or whatever you've done. Shoal, fish, anyone? And then now this is just about, you know, me kind of pushing you out of the nest, I guess is a nice way to put it. And then inspiring your own improv journey to go out and look whilst you're, you know, on your daily walk or whatever, and you see something, and then knowing that, yes, I can translate that into fabric because I have these skills. I know how to break it down. I know how to put it all together. So that's the cabbage class. So whilst people may think, oh, bloody cabbages, it's not just about the cabbage.
Exactly. I mean, it is unusual for your classes not to sell out. We've been like, okay, what's happened with the cabbage? Although having said that, what's happened? You still got loads of people wanting to come on these classes. So it's like, you know, we did say, didn't we, it's going to happen that one class is not going to sell out. And so we're always like, why is it not selling out? But actually it's incredible. There are at least, I think, 63, 64 people over the 2 classes who are lined up to do it. So that's incredible that there are so many people who want to make a cabbage. But as you say, it's about techniques. But the question I have, Nicholas, is I did have one lady who emailed me and said, oh, do you know, I'm having second thoughts about it. I love Nicholas. I've done all of his classes. I wonder if it's going to be too hard for me. And I said, no, because, you know, Nicholas guides you all the step of the way. If someone hasn't done your log cabin, triangles, blah, 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 if they're new to improv, can they still come on this class and get something out of it?
Absolutely. So the fact that I love that it's 4 hours. So most people who've taken my classes, and as you know, it's all about the technique. So we don't set off to say, we are going to have a finished mini quilt at the end of this, or we are going to have a finished cushion cover. That's not what my classes are about. We have samples, we've immersed ourselves in the technique, and we can go away confident that we can replicate that. With this one, yes, we are going to be practicing those techniques I mentioned, but we are going to be aiming to have, all of us, a finished cabbage top. So we're not going to quilt it, we're not going to bind it or anything like that, but we will have the piecing, hopefully, done. And that's why it's so immersive. So you have 4 hours, and I'm going to talk you through everything. And we're not going to be like, make the cabbage, put it all together, join it, blah, blah. We're going to be breaking it down. So we're going to start with what I always start with, and the core. So we're going to be looking at triangles to make this core, and everybody will make their core, and then we'll work on to creating slabs. So step by step, making this cabbage, showing you how to arrange it all. And if you've never done any of my classes before, I'm not going to be like, everybody now make triangles for your core. I'm going to show you how I make triangles, and they're adapted slightly. So you may have done the triangle workshop for quilts like this, but to make the core, it's slightly different way of using triangles. So every step of the way, I'll be guiding you. I'll be sewing along with you in real time. So not just showing you my samples. I will be making 2 cabbage quilts over the course of the 2 workshops. So if you've never done any of my classes before, but you want to explore your creativity in a more liberated, organic way, then definitely sign up. Even if you think, oh, I can't keep up with Nicholas, as you've said many a time in different workshops, people can take a back seat, they can observe, they can write notes, and you know, they can just get in with the process without actually having to sew if they're not comfortable at that stage, if they want to maybe take the information away and, you know, redigest it a little bit. So it's absolutely accessible to anybody, really, whether you've done one of my workshops or not.
Yeah, and what's always great about your classes as well, Nicholas, is that you never mind when someone just says, "I'm sorry, Nicholas, could you please repeat that for me?" And I think that's one of the great things about the improv, of course, is that you can just quickly cut out another shape and do it, because it's not so specific with the measurements, or stitched to something else that has been also specifically measured. It's like, well, yeah, of course I go knock out another triangle. Here we are, put it on the machine, blah blah blah. And you are happy to always go back over things. That's why people keep coming back to your classes, and that's why they sell out every single time. And we have got people who are doing the triangles again who did it before and said they just loved it and they just still want to learn. And every time they come on your classes, they learn something new. And you are such a great teacher, as well as, it's not every artist will be a great teacher. And, you just happen to be both. It's like with Gary, Gary Mills, bless him. He's such a talent. We did the art classes the other night, which were hugely popular. And people were saying, who is this guy, this Gary? We've not heard of him, and he's amazing. So, he's also a great teacher, as well as being a really good artist, and you are in that category. So I think people would get a lot out of it if they came to it, particularly because it is, as you say, 4 hours. We will have breaks in there, people, so don't worry. And actually, it goes like that, doesn't it? Whenever you start with 3 hours, you look at the clock, you go, there's 35 minutes left. How's that happened?
I know, yeah.
So
at the end of my workshops, generally when we're talking about sort of how to arrange all of the things that people have made, because you can't just sew them edge to edge as you normally would, and I find myself going 10 to the dozen, like, right now people, you're going to put them on your design board, then you're going to as the time just disappears.
Yeah. But what's nice as well, another thing as well, Nicholas, in your classes, they are across the world. So although we do mute people so that we can all hear what you're saying, we do have unmutable times. People do chat, and it is always great that somebody will go, hi, I'm in California, and then somebody will say, I'm in Scotland. And it's really great that we do have those little chats from people across the world as well. So it's always nice international flavor.
And I love, we've got into the habit of we have little sort of 5 minutes of show and tell, don't we?
Yes.
And I think I'm really looking forward to doing that in the cabbage quilt, because normally people just have, their samples. So this is a triangle, this is a log cabin. Whereas when we have little show and tells in the cabbage workshops, we're going to see the progression of everybody's cabbages, which is going to be fantastic. And I would just add one thing as well. There may be people watching who think, oh, I'd love to do the class, but I haven't got the time to, curate all the materials or cut all of the things to size. You don't have to do any of that. So I'm going to be doing that on camera with you. And as you said, you can just grab a pair of scissors, because we're using oversized, exaggerated shapes that don't have to be precise, which we then trim down. So if you want to just grab a last minute ticket, if you're busy all next week, there's no prep. Just grab some fabric that you like, and we'll be doing it all on the night. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'll start to get so many emails at the beginning of the week saying, what is the prep, and what are the requirements? And I just always go, there is no prep, and all the requirements are on the website. So, it's all there. It's all absolutely, on the website. What's the word? Transparent, it's all there. And like you say, there's no prep. It's all just done in the workshop. So you can just join in. But so, yes, I'm getting notifications now of bookings, and I bet they're your classes. I bet they are. So if anybody just wants to book those classes, please hop onto the website, CraftyMonkies.com. And as I say, I've seen 2 notifications that there might be 1 ticket left on the Triangle Workshop now. I'm not sure, but it was 3. And the cabbage, a few more than that, but still not many. There's still another week. And I appreciate that people now, actually, what's happening, Nicholas, is I'm noticing actually very last minute bookings on a lot of classes, because I think a lot of people are thinking, where am I going to be, because the world is opening in a little bit.
Yes, which is a good thing. We're not going to begrudge that, because to be able to go outside and interact, and we had a socially distanced coffee the other day, and we got to see our friend's baby, who we'd only seen maybe once previously. And I say baby, 11 months old now, 10 months old. So it's nice that we can go out. So people may be just being a little bit cautious. But if you don't have a better offer, come make cabbages with me. It's fantastic.
Come and make cabbages. Lovely. Oh, well, Nicholas, listen, it's been absolutely fantastic. There's another notification. I
Bye,
don't
people.
know if
Bye,
these will
bye.
now go on the Instagram live. I don't know if when I put it up on the thing, whether they'll be there. It doesn't matter. It's just someone's name and what their books, no personal details. Anyway, so listen, it's been absolutely fantastic and fascinating. Love talking to you, Nicholas, and I'm very much looking forward to our classes next weekend. And just to say as well, for anybody who's a Nicholas fan, those 4 classes will be the last classes until September for our Nicholas. He is booked in, don't worry. But yeah, that'll be it for the summer. So if you want to have your fill of our Nicholas, you need to get on those classes. And Mel just said, I need to go further with my, oh, is it you, Mel? Have you just booked? She said, I need to go further with my
the viewer from Marrakesh has signed up.
Ah, excellent.
So
Lovely. Well done,
also
Kenta.
I don't know, but lovely to have you.
Yes. And Jan as well said she loves a triangle quilt. Very tempted with cabbage. Do it, Jan. Life is for living, you know, and these classes go, and then you've missed your chance until whenever, you know. So
as a final note, cabbages is not something that I teach very often.
No.
You're more likely to see a triangle workshop or a log cabin workshop.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Cabbages, because it's quite immersive and it takes you a little bit longer, it's not something that I do every month. So if you want to join, now's your chance. Now's
your chance, because it won't be coming back until next year. Kay Lidlin said, I love doing the log cabbages next time. Yes, Mel has said, yep, I can't resist the workshops. Thank you so much, Mel. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Lovely. Right, well, it is, oh, we're going to get cut off in a second by Instagram. I've got to get it set. Right. Thank you so much, lovely Nicholas. Thank you to everybody watching on Instagram tonight. Really appreciate your company and for all your lovely questions. Have a fantastic weekend, whatever you're doing. You have a lovely weekend as well, Nicholas. And we will see you very, very soon. I don't know what the Japanese do, but I'm just going to go, oh, yes, goodbye. Take care, everybody.
Bye. For watching. Bye.